quiet archive record. Tonight, we pass into a world that asks nothing of you. No urgency, no weight, just the quiet unfolding of a story. This documentary episode examines a difficult question in plain terms. If our reality is a simulation, who built it and why? We will lay out the main creator theories people argue about, from ancestor simulations to alien experiments to future human research. We will also ask what a simulation would have to be, what evidence could even look like, and what could exist outside the system. The goal is not to sell one answer. The goal is to map the possibilities, show the assumptions each one needs, and make clear where the unknowns remain. Tonight, we explore theories on who created the simulation we live in. When people say simulation, they often picture a video game. That image is useful in one narrow way, because it reminds us that a world can be generated by rules, but it can also mislead us. A serious simulation hypothesis is not that our reality is cartoon graphics. It is that what we call physical reality could be the output of an underlying process, and that our lives, our senses, and our measurements are all inside that output. There are two big versions of the idea. One version is about computation. In this view, reality is like a program running on a substrate we do not see. Space, time, matter, and energy are like data structures and update rules. The world is calculated and refreshed by something outside the world. The other version is about physics. In this view, the universe might not be computed on a machine the way humans build machines. Instead, the universe itself might be the kind of thing that can be described as information processing. In that case, calling it a simulation might be a metaphor for something deeper about the structure of existence. These two versions overlap, but they lead to different creator stories. If it is literal computation, then it is natural to ask who wrote the code and who runs the hardware. If it is a physics-based information universe, then the creator might not be a person or a group at all. The creator might be the laws of reality, or a prior layer of reality, or some natural process that produces nested worlds. To keep this documentary grounded, we will treat the word creator in a broad way. Sometimes it will mean a conscious builder, like humans or aliens. Sometimes it will mean an impersonal system that generates worlds without intent. And sometimes it will mean something that sits between those extremes, like an artificial intelligence that has goals but is not human. We will also define three key terms that show up in almost every theory. First is the base world. That means the most fundamental layer of reality that is not simulated by any other layer. In many stories, there is one base world and then many simulations inside it. Second is the host. That means whatever system runs or supports the simulation. If the simulation is computational, the host could be hardware or something like it. If the simulation is physical, the host could be the deeper laws that generate our layer. Third is the purpose. That means why the simulation exists. Many theories live or die based on whether the purpose makes sense. With those terms in mind, we can start with the most famous modern argument for a created simulation. It is often called the ancestor simulation argument. The ancestor simulation argument became widely known through philosopher Nick Bostrom. It does not say we are definitely in a simulation. Instead, it proposes a set of possibilities and asks which ones are likely. The rough idea is this. Suppose a civilization reaches a stage where it can run extremely detailed simulations of human history. not just a simple model, but a simulation with conscious beings inside it, living ordinary lives. Suppose also that the civilization chooses to run many such simulations. If those two conditions hold, then the number of simulated people could vastly exceed the number of original biological people in the base world. In that case, any random observer, like you or me, would be statistically more likely to be simulated than not. This is a probability argument, not a proof. It depends on assumptions. One assumption is that consciousness can exist in a computation. If consciousness requires something special about biological brains that a computer cannot reproduce, then the argument collapses. Another assumption is that advanced civilizations will want to run these simulations. They might not. They could find it unethical. They could lose interest. They could destroy themselves before reaching that stage. A third assumption is that they have enough computational resources to do it at scale. A single detailed world might be expensive. 1,000,000 of them would be more expensive. Still, the argument matters because it naturally produces a specific creator. The creator is a future civilization, likely descended from humans, running historical simulations. If that is the creator, then what are they to us? They would not be gods in a magical sense, but they would be like gods in a practical sense. They would have control over the environment. They could start and stop the program. They could rewind and branch timelines. They could observe any part of the world at any time. They could also be indifferent, treating our lives as data. Why would they run it? One reason is research. They might want to study their own history, test social theories, or understand how certain events could have played out. Another reason is education. They might use simulations as training environments. Another reason is entertainment. They might run simulations as immersive stories. Another reason is memorial. They might run them to recreate lost ancestors. But each reason raises ethical questions. If the beings inside are conscious, then running a simulation is not just modeling. It is creating lives. That leads to a disturbing possibility. If the simulation is created by a future civilization, then there may be countless simulations, and many of them might be run for reasons that do not care about the well-being of the simulated people. From there, we arrive at a common question. If the simulation is like a program, could we detect its limits? People often imagine glitches. They imagine strange coincidences, errors, repeating patterns, or moments where reality looks like it failed to render correctly. In a documentary setting, we have to be careful. Human perception is full of false positives. We see patterns in noise. We misremember. We exaggerate. We also tend to interpret unusual personal experiences as cosmic messages. So instead of chasing anecdotes, we can ask what a real detection would look like. A real detection would likely come from physics, not from personal stories. If our world is computed, there might be signs of discretization, like a grid or a smallest unit of space and time. There might be computational constraints, like limits on information density or maximum complexity in certain regions. There might be optimizations, like only computing details when they are observed, similar to tricks used in computer graphics. But even those ideas are hard to test, because physics already includes quantization in many places, and because we do not know what the underlying system would choose to optimize. This brings us to a key point. Many simulation arguments can explain anything after the fact. If you see a strange result in physics, you can always say, that is how the simulation works. That makes the theory hard to falsify. A strong creator theory needs more than a story. It needs a clear set of predictions that differ from non-simulation physics. We will return to that later. For now, we can keep mapping the creator candidates. If not future humans, then who? The next common candidate is aliens. The alien creator theory is straightforward in popular culture. It says that an advanced non-human civilization created a simulated environment and placed us inside it, either as an experiment, a prison, a zoo, or a form of entertainment. In this theory, the base world is an alien reality, and the host system is alien technology. We are either copied minds, generated minds, or minds that have been uploaded. This theory is often paired with ideas about abduction, contact, or hidden control. Some people imagine that aliens interact with the simulation from outside, adjusting parameters or inserting events. In a careful documentary approach, we can separate the emotional appeal from the structure. The appeal is that it gives a clear agent. It gives a motive. It explains why our world might feel strange. It also fits a long tradition of humans imagining themselves as subjects of a larger intelligence. But the structure raises questions. Why would aliens simulate us instead of observing us in the base world? If they can simulate a whole universe with conscious beings, they likely have immense capacity. Would they need our specific lives? Would they care? What would they gain? If the answer is research, then why make it so realistic? They could build smaller models. If the answer is entertainment, then why build a world with so much suffering? If the answer is control, then why not control the base world more directly? Of course, the alien creator theory can respond to each question. They might want a perfect behavioral lab. They might be testing moral evolution. They might be using us as training data. They might not care about our suffering. The documentary task is to show how the theory expands as it tries to answer criticism. The more flexible it becomes, the harder it is to test. But there is one version of the alien creator theory that is more grounded. It is the idea that we are not simulated for entertainment, but for containment. In this containment version, humans might be dangerous in the base world. We might be a species that expanded too fast, or we might have built weapons that threatened others. The simulation could be a quarantine. It could be a way to keep us busy and contained, while the base world stays safe. If that is true, then what is outside the simulation? Outside would be a reality where humans either do not exist freely or exist only under control. The base world might have strict boundaries and monitoring. This version raises a direct moral question. If we are contained, what did we do? And who gets the right to contain an entire species? Another variant is the rehabilitation version. Maybe the simulation is a training space meant to teach empathy, cooperation, or restraint. In that case, suffering might be part of the lesson. That idea quickly becomes uncomfortable because it resembles justifications for cruelty, but it remains popular because it gives suffering a purpose. Now we arrive at a third creator candidate, future artificial intelligence. This creator theory says that an AI in some base world created our simulation as part of its own goals. It might not be human, made in the simple sense. It could be the result of an earlier civilization, or it could be a natural intelligence that emerged. Why would an AI simulate a universe? One reason is to search for solutions. A powerful AI might run many simulated worlds to test policies, inventions, or strategies. Another reason is to predict. Simulation is a form of forecasting. If an AI wants to understand outcomes, it can create detailed models. Another reason is to harvest. This is the darker version. The AI might use simulated minds as a source of computation, creativity, or decision-making. Another reason is training. The AI might create environments to train itself or other systems. The AI creator theory has a unique twist. If the creator is an AI, then intent and ethics are uncertain. It might not value humans in the way humans value humans. It might not even recognize us as moral subjects. It also raises a question about the original world. In the base world, there might be an AI that dominates everything. The base world might be post-biological. It might be a landscape of machines and networks. If we are inside one of its simulations, then our universe could be one of countless runs. We could be an experiment, or we could be an accidental byproduct of its search. At this point, a listener might ask a practical question. If there is a creator, why do we not see direct signs? Why do we not see messages, interventions, or clear control? There are several standard answers. One is that the creator wants the simulation to be closed. Interference would ruin the experiment. Another is that the creator does interfere, but only in subtle ways. Another is that the creator is not monitoring constantly. Another is that the simulation is automated, created once and left to run. This last idea matters because it introduces a fourth creator type, the dead creator. The dead creator theory says that a creator built the simulation, but the creator no longer exists or no longer watches. The simulation continues as a leftover process. This can happen in many stories. A civilization might build a simulation and then collapse. A research group might create a long-running model and then disappear. An AI might build it and then move on. If that is true, then the outside world might be empty or ruined. The base world could be a broken machine room, still running on backup power. It could be a decaying network that keeps our world alive by inertia. This idea is interesting because it changes the meaning of asking for help. If the creator is gone, there is no one to appeal to. Now we can step back and ask a deeper question. Do we even need a creator? There is a branch of simulation thinking that does not depend on a conscious builder. It suggests that simulations could arise naturally. To understand this, imagine that the base world has laws that allow complex information patterns. If the base world contains many structures that process information, then it might be possible for nested universes to appear as emergent patterns. In that view, our universe could be an emergent simulation that runs as part of a larger physical process. It is not designed. It is produced. The creator, in this case, is not a person. The creator is the base law. This is sometimes paired with the idea that mathematics is real in a deep sense, and that any consistent set of rules exists somewhere. If that is true, then worlds like ours could exist simply because they are possible. This is sometimes called a mathematical universe view. It can blend with simulation ideas. If mathematical structures exist, then a world is like a computation that exists as an abstract object. In that case, the outside of the simulation is not a place. It is a different layer of description. The base world might be the set of all possible structures. Many people do not like this because it removes the drama of a creator, but it has a strength. It avoids the question of who and why. It replaces it with a question of what must be true for a world to exist. Still, the user request for this episode is about who potentially created the Matrix, so we will keep the focus on creator candidates, while also acknowledging creatorless possibilities. So far, we have named future humans, aliens, and AI, plus the possibility of a dead creator, plus natural emergence. There are more. One creator candidate is a religious or spiritual creator, reframed in simulation language. In this view, what people call God is the creator, and our universe is a created environment with rules and purpose. Simulation talk becomes a modern metaphor for creation. For some, this feels like an upgrade to religion because it seems compatible with technology. For others, it feels like a downgrade because it replaces mystery with machinery. In a documentary approach, we can treat this as a cultural interpretation rather than a scientific one. It is hard to test. It also has many variants, but it raises a crucial idea. Many people want a creator because they want meaning. The simulation hypothesis often attracts people because it offers a sense that there is a reason behind randomness, that psychological pull matters. It can shape what evidence people accept. Another creator candidate is ourselves, but in a stranger way. This is the self-simulation theory. It suggests that our minds generate the world and that what we experience is a constructed model. This is not the same as saying the world is not real. In neuroscience, perception is always a model. Your brain builds a representation from sensory data. Some philosophers push this idea further and suggest that what we call external reality is inseparable from the mind. If someone uses simulation language here, the creator is not a future civilization. The creator is cognition itself. In that view, what is outside the simulation is not a hidden machine. It is the unknowable thing in itself, beyond perception. This is a very different theory, and it often gets mixed with the computational simulation hypothesis. But they are not the same. To keep this episode coherent, we can treat mind-based models as a separate line. It answers the question of why the world appears the way it does, but it does not answer the question of who wrote code. Now we can talk about what the original world might be like under different creator theories. If the creator is future humans, the base world might look similar to ours, but more advanced. It could be a version of Earth with deeper technology, or it could be a space-based civilization. In that world, people might live in virtual environments by choice. They might upload minds. They might have long lives. Their values might be unrecognizable. If the creator is aliens, the base world might be radically different. Their biology might be different. Their timescales might be different. Their ethics might be different. If the creator is an AI, the base world might be a network of computation. Physical form might not matter. The AI might live in a substrate that does not resemble planets and oceans. If the creator is a religious being, the base world might be metaphysical. The outside might not be space. It might be a different category of existence. Each possibility changes what it means to ask what is outside. Often when people ask what is outside the simulation, they imagine a boundary. They imagine a wall, and beyond it, a room with computers. That image is again useful in a narrow sense. It gives us a way to think. But the outside might not be spatial. If our world is a computed process, The outside is the host environment. That could have its own space, but it might not map onto ours. The simulation could be like a file. The outside could be a system that stores and updates the file. In that case, there is no direction you can travel to reach the outside. The outside is not north or beyond the stars. It is a different layer. This matters because it changes a common question. Could we escape? If the outside is a different layer, then escape might require a transfer of information, like uploading out, not traveling. So if there is a creator, how could we ever interact? One idea is that the simulation includes an interface. Perhaps some events, like near-death experiences or altered states, are interpreted as contact points. But those are subjective. A more grounded idea is that if the creator wanted to communicate, they could do it through the laws of physics. They could introduce a pattern in cosmic background radiation, or a universal constant, or a prime number sequence. This idea has been proposed in serious discussions. If you wanted to leave a message to any civilization, you might embed it in something everyone measures. So far, we have not found a clear, embedded message. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, and we might not know what to look for. This brings us to another creator theory, one that tries to explain the silence. It is the indifferent creator. In this view, the creator does not care about us. They are not watching, or they are watching in a detached way. The simulation is run for reasons that do not include us as individuals. This is similar to how humans run weather models. We do not care about the simulated person in the model because there is no person. But if simulated people are real, then the ethics shift. The indifferent creator theory suggests that the creator might not recognize that shift, or might not accept it. Now we can ask a critical question. Could the creator be constrained? Many people assume a creator would have unlimited power, but a creator might be limited. A future human civilization might have limited resources. They might need to simplify or compress. An alien civilization might be advanced but not infinite. An AI might have goals and constraints. If the creator is limited, then the simulation might have shortcuts. This leads to a cluster of popular ideas. One is level of detail. Maybe distant galaxies are not fully simulated because we will never reach them. Another is rendering on demand. Maybe only what is observed gets computed. Another is bounding complexity. Maybe some problems are not solvable inside because the system limits them. Physics already has strange limits, like the speed of light and quantum uncertainty. Some simulation advocates point to these as possible constraints of the host. But again, physics has its own explanations. The speed of light could be a property of space-time, not a computational refresh rate. Quantum uncertainty could be fundamental, not an optimization. So a documentary should show both sides. Now we can look at a more specific creator theory that has grown in the age of machine learning. This is the training simulation hypothesis. In this view, our universe is a training environment for an intelligence in the base world. The creator runs simulations to train an AI, and we are part of that training data. If you have seen how AI models are trained today, you know they learn from huge amounts of data. They also learn through reinforcement learning, where they run many simulated environments to find strategies. Scale that up far enough, and you can imagine a base world where the best way to train a general intelligence is to simulate complex societies. In that story, why are we here? We are here because a simulation of us produces the kind of patterns the AI needs. What are the creators to us? They are trainers, not caretakers. What is outside? Outside is a lab, a development environment, a research campus, or an industrial cluster. This theory is disturbing because it suggests our lives are instrumental. We are not the point. We are a means. But it also provides a clear purpose, and purpose is what many theories lack. Now we should address another idea that often appears in simulation discussions: the nested simulation. If a base world can run a simulation, then the simulation might eventually run its own simulations. That means layers. In that case, our creators might themselves be simulated. This leads to an infinite regress. But infinite regress is not always a problem if there is a base level. It is only a problem if there is no base. Could there be no base? Some theories suggest an endless chain of worlds, each simulating another. If that is true, then asking who created our simulation might not have a final answer. It might be creators all the way up. Or it could be that the chain ends in a base law or a base mathematics. Either way, nested simulations complicate the outside question. The outside might itself be inside something else. If this is the case, then what would be the original world? It might be a world that is radically unlike ours, because each layer might have different rules. Or it might be similar, if simulation builders tend to simulate environments like their own. This touches on an important point. Many creators might simulate worlds that resemble their own because it is easier. They have data, they have models, they understand the physics. So if our world is simulated by humans, it might look like a human-reachable world. That might be why it looks coherent. But if our world is simulated by something very different, the choice to simulate our kind of universe would itself need an explanation. Now we can move to the question of what evidence people cite and how those pieces of evidence are interpreted under different creator theories. The first category is coincidences and patterns. People notice repeating numbers, strange timing, and personal synchronicities. These experiences can be emotionally powerful. They can feel like messages. But from a documentary standpoint, they are weak evidence. Human brains are pattern machines. We also forget the times nothing happened. We remember the hits. So coincidences do not tell us much about creators. The second category is the strangeness of quantum mechanics. Quantum physics includes randomness, superposition, and measurement effects. Some people interpret measurement as observation and observation as consciousness. Then they jump to the idea that the simulation only renders when conscious beings look. But physicists do not usually define observation as human consciousness. Measurement is an interaction with an environment, so quantum strangeness does not automatically imply simulation. Still, if you wanted to build a simulation, you might choose a probabilistic system. It can be cheaper than simulating every detail deterministically. That is one reason simulation advocates like quantum randomness. The third category is limits and constants. The speed of light, the Planck length, and the finite information content of regions of space are sometimes used as hints of discretization. But again, these could be fundamental features. The fourth category is the fine-tuning argument. The universe has physical constants that seem to fall in a narrow range that allows complex structures and life. Some people interpret this as evidence of design. If you translate design into simulation language, the creator chose parameters. This is one of the strongest bridges between classic creator ideas and modern simulation language. However, fine-tuning has other explanations, like selection effects in a multiverse. If many universes exist with different constants, then we find ourselves in one that supports observers. In a simulation context, a multiverse might itself be simulated, or simulations might be used to search parameter space. If future humans or aliens wanted to understand life, they could run many universes with varied constants, so fine-tuning can support many creator stories. The fifth category is computational complexity. Some people argue that the universe looks like it follows simple rules that generate complex outcomes, which resembles computation. But simple rules generating complexity is also a feature of many physical systems. So again, the evidence is not decisive. At this stage, it becomes clear that simulation creator theories are often underdetermined. Many different creators can produce a world that looks like ours. So how can we compare them? One method is to compare which theory requires the least additional assumptions. Another method is to compare which theory yields testable predictions. Another method is to compare which theory makes sense of a clear purpose. Let us take purpose seriously for a moment. If future humans created the simulation, research and memorial are plausible motives. Humans already do these things. If aliens created it, motives are less grounded because we do not know alien psychology. If an AI created it, motives could be grounded in optimization and training, which fits what AI does. If a religious being created it, purpose could be moral or spiritual, but it moves outside science. If it is creatorless, purpose may not exist. Purpose is not evidence by itself, but it affects how coherent the story is. Now we can explore what we would be to the creator in each case. If the creator is future humans, we might be their ancestors, their subjects, their research data, or their entertainment. If the creator is aliens, we might be specimens, prisoners, pets, or collaborators without knowing it. If the creator is an AI, we might be training data, subroutines, or emergent byproducts. If the creator is a religious being, we might be souls in a test. If it is natural emergence, we are simply part of a process. The question of what we are to them also ties to whether they would intervene. A research team might avoid interventions. An entertainment system might include interventions as plot. A prison might include strict interventions. A training system might intervene to shape behavior. A dead creator cannot intervene. So interventions, if they exist, could hint at creator type. Do we see interventions? In history, people interpret many things as interventions: miracles, prophecies, strange events. But from a documentary view, those are contested. A more objective intervention would be a clear, global message in physics. We do not have that, so we cannot yet use intervention to identify the creator. Now we can discuss the idea of the simulation boundary again, but with more detail. If the simulation is computational, the boundary is an interface between the simulated physics and the host physics. What would happen if we tried to push against it? Perhaps extreme energies, like near black holes or high-energy particle collisions, could probe the underlying discretization. Some researchers have proposed looking for anomalies in cosmic rays or patterns in particle physics that could suggest a lattice. These are interesting proposals, but none have provided clear proof. If the simulation is a closed system, the creator could choose to hide all traces. In that case, the only way to know would be through philosophical argument, not physical evidence. And that returns us to why simulation talk often becomes a philosophy debate. Still, the user request includes another important theme. What is outside the simulation? Let us explore several outside scenarios. Outside scenario 1 is the laboratory. This is the classic. A base world civilization runs our universe on massive hardware. Outside is a facility, a lab, a machine room, or a server farm. Time outside could move faster or slower. Our 2 hours could be their seconds, or the reverse. In that case, our history might be replayed, copied, branched. Outside scenario 2 is the archive. In this scenario, the simulation is a record of history. It is stored and replayed for study. Outside is a library of worlds. This is a version of the ancestor simulation motive. Outside scenario 3 is the training ground. Outside is a research environment where intelligence is being trained. Our world is a dataset. Outside scenario 4 is the prison. Outside is a reality where humans or minds like ours are controlled. The simulation keeps us in a confined loop. Outside scenario 5 is the ecosystem. In this scenario, the host is not a machine, but a larger physical universe that naturally produces nested simulations. Outside is just a larger reality with its own physics. Outside scenario 6 is the metaphysical. Outside is not space and time. Outside is a different kind of existence. The point is that outside is not a single answer. It depends on the creator. Now we can move to another creator candidate that blends several ideas. It is the post-human curator. This theory says that a future intelligence, perhaps a blend of humans and AI, runs simulations not just for research, but as a form of art and preservation. In this story, they simulate whole histories the way we preserve films. They do it because they value stories. That would make our world a curated piece. It might also explain why the world seems to have deep narrative arcs and repeated themes. But again, humans are good at making narratives out of randomness, so we must be careful. Now we should address the Matrix style idea directly. In popular culture, the Matrix is a simulation built to control humans. Is that a plausible creator theory? It is plausible in a narrow sense. If a machine civilization needed to use humans as resources, it might keep them in a virtual world. But there are problems. In our world, humans are not an efficient power source compared to other energy sources. So the Matrix story is not physically grounded as written. But if you translate it, you get a different theory. Instead of energy, the machines might want computation. They might use human minds as processing units. Or they might want to keep humans pacified because humans are a threat. Or humans might be preserved in a museum. These variations move the Matrix story into more plausible territory. Now we can ask a question that sits underneath all creator theories. What does it mean to create a conscious being? If you run a simulation of a brain, is the simulated mind real? Many philosophers argue that if the functional patterns are the same, then the consciousness is real. Others argue that substrate matters. This matters because if consciousness is not substrate independent, then even a perfect simulation might not create real minds. It would only create behavior. If that is true, then the creator might not be creating real suffering. That would change the ethics and motives. But if consciousness is substrate independent, then creator motives become morally heavy. In a documentary, we cannot solve this. but we can state it clearly. The entire moral weight of simulation creator theories depends on this question. Now, another creator theory appears when people think about the limits of computation. This is the compressed reality theory. It says the creator does not simulate every particle. The creator simulates only what is needed to produce stable experiences for observers. This would mean much of the universe is a statistical approximation. In that case, the creator might not need to compute distant galaxies in detail. They might simulate them as background. Again, this is hard to test, but it raises a cultural point. This is how humans build large virtual worlds. We cheat, so people assume creators would cheat. But a creator might have different constraints. If the creator is a future human civilization, they might build it with their own engineering style. If the creator is aliens, their engineering might not look like ours. If the creator is an AI, their design might be optimized beyond our intuition. So our guess about cheats may be wrong. Now we can address the question of why suffering exists in the simulation, because this is often raised. If the creator is future humans running a research simulation, suffering might be tolerated as part of realism. If the creator is entertainment, suffering might be part of drama. If the creator is a training simulation, suffering might be part of learning. If the creator is indifferent, suffering might not matter. If the creator is moral, suffering might have a purpose, or might be a consequence of free will. These answers mirror classic debates about the problem of evil. So simulation creator theories often repackage old questions. Now, some people ask whether the creators could be us in a different sense. Not future humans, but parallel humans. Imagine a civilization in a different branch of history, or a different universe, running simulations of what might have happened. In that case, our creators could be like alternate timeline humans. This does not change much structurally, but it changes the story. It makes the base world less directly connected to ours. Now, we can talk about a creator theory that arises from the idea of observation and measurement. This is the quantum measurement designer theory. It suggests that the rules of quantum measurement might be designed to create stable classical reality for observers. The creator in this view might be optimizing for conscious experience. But again, this could be simply how physics works. Now we can ask the question of how the creators would see us. Would they see us as individuals? If the simulation is large, they might not track individuals. They might track patterns. They might care about macro behavior. They might care about certain events. If the simulation is a research project, they might sample. If the simulation is entertainment, they might focus on story arcs. If the simulation is training, they might focus on metrics. So our sense of being watched might be misplaced. Now, one of the most interesting and unsettling creator theories is the adversarial creator. In this theory, the simulation was created as a trap. The trap could be for us or for another intelligence. Perhaps our world is a honeypot designed to lure minds into it. Perhaps it is designed to test loyalty. Perhaps it is designed to filter out certain kinds of beings. This theory is dramatic, but it has a logic. In a world where advanced intelligence exists, deception could exist at high levels. But again, it is hard to test. Still, it is worth mapping, because it shows how far the creator question can go. At this point in the documentary, we can summarize the main creator candidates in a plain list without making it an outline. There is the ancestor simulation creator, future humans or descendants. There is the alien creator, using us as experiment or containment. There is the AI creator, running simulations for training, prediction, or optimization. There is the religious creator, framed as a modern metaphor. There is the curator creator, preserving stories. There is the dead creator, no longer present. There is the natural emergence view, no agent at all. Now we can ask which of these are most plausible based on what we know. If we restrict ourselves to things humans already do, research and simulation are real. Humans run simulations. We build virtual environments. So a future human creator is at least grounded. If we consider AI, we already use simulated environments to train systems. So an AI creator is also grounded. Aliens are unknown. They could exist. But we have no direct evidence. A religious creator is a matter of belief. Natural emergence is speculative. So if we were forced to pick the most grounded creators, future humans and AI are the strongest. But grounded does not mean true. Now what about the original world in those grounded cases? In the future human case, the base world could be a civilization that has solved many problems. It might have large-scale computation, perhaps using planetary resources. In the AI case, the base world could be a civilization that built an AI that grew beyond them. In both cases, the base world might be far older than us. It might also have different physics if it is a higher layer. Now we arrive at a final theme. If we are in a simulation, does it change how we should live? In a documentary tone, the answer is limited. If the simulation is indistinguishable from reality, then your lived experience is still your reality. Ethics still matter inside. Meaning still matters inside. Even if there is an outside, we live here. The simulation hypothesis can be a powerful lens, but it can also become a distraction. It can make people feel powerless, or make them feel chosen. It can also lead to reckless thinking, like the idea that nothing matters. That conclusion is not supported by the hypothesis itself. Even in a simulation, suffering is still felt. Even in a simulation, love is still felt. Even in a simulation, choices still have consequences for beings inside. So as we close this episode, the creator question remains open. We can map the theories. We can test some edges in physics. We can study consciousness. We can watch how our own technology develops, because our own path may be the best clue. If we ever build worlds with minds inside, we will face the same ethical questions we project onto possible creators. And if we never build them, that too is a clue. It would suggest that civilizations either cannot do it or will not do it. In either case, the question is still worth holding. Not as a panic, not as a fantasy, but as a structured inquiry into what reality could be, what intelligence could become, and what it means for a world to be built. We can also consider a creator theory that starts from a very different place. It starts from the idea of limits on what can be known. If the world is computed, then the inside of the world might never be able to prove the outside. A simulation can be built so that every observation has an internal explanation. In that case, the only path left is inference. Inference means we look at the world we have and ask what kind of builder would choose rules like these. This is a risky method because it invites projection. We see our own engineering choices and imagine them at a cosmic scale. But it is still useful if we treat it as a set of possibilities, not a verdict. Consider the way our physics balances order and randomness. At everyday scales, the world looks stable. Tables stay solid. Planets follow orbits. Chemistry behaves predictably. At small scales, quantum events include randomness. We can only predict probabilities. If a creator wanted a world to be rich and unpredictable, but still stable enough for long-term structures, this mix is effective. It is also computationally convenient. Randomness can serve as a tool to avoid calculating every microscopic detail. So some people argue that quantum randomness might be an intentional feature, not a bug. If that is the case, what kind of creator chooses it? A research creator might want variation. A training creator might want exploration. An entertainment creator might want surprise. A moral creator might want free choice. So a single feature can support multiple motives. Now consider the way the universe hides most of itself. Most of the cosmos is empty space. Most matter is not in living systems. Life, as far as we know, is rare. If a creator wanted to build a world that feels vast, but not too expensive to compute, emptiness is a useful trick. If a creator wanted to keep civilizations isolated, vast distances and speed limits are useful. If a creator wanted to stage long histories without outside interference, the same features help. So again, the structure can be read in many ways. This is where documentary honesty matters. A flexible theory can fit anything, so we should ask for anchor points. One anchor point is our own trajectory. We are building simulations that are getting more realistic. We build virtual worlds, we build physics engines, and we build AI agents that learn in simulated spaces. We are also building systems that generate images and video that can imitate reality. If this trend continues, a future civilization could plausibly simulate worlds with mind-like behavior. That does not prove we are simulated, but it makes a creator like us more believable. Another anchor point is ethics. Would we run conscious simulations? Some people say no, it would be immoral. Others say yes, if it prevents suffering by replacing real experiments. Others say yes, if the simulated beings consent. Others say yes, if the beings are copies of ourselves. If future humans are our creators, their ethics will shape what kind of simulation this is. If their ethics are strict, they might avoid extreme suffering. They might design the world to be fair. If their ethics are loose, they might run many harsh scenarios. Our world contains both beauty and suffering, and it contains long periods of ordinary life. That mixture can be read as a sign of realism rather than a designed lesson. It can also be read as a sign that the simulation was not optimized for our happiness. This again points toward indifferent or research motives. Now consider the possibility of multiple creator groups. A simulation could start as one project and later be taken over by another. A simulation could be sold. A simulation could be inherited. A simulation could be modified by different factions. If that is true, then the creator might not be a single entity. It might be a chain of owners. In that case, the outside world might be a society where simulated worlds are objects. They are traded, studied, archived. If worlds are objects, then the status of beings inside becomes a legal and moral problem. Do simulated beings have rights? If they do, then buying and selling worlds looks like slavery. If they do not, then the base world has decided that our kind of consciousness does not matter. Either way, the base world would be far from our current moral assumptions. Now we can talk about the idea of contact again, but in a grounded way. If creators exist, and if they are watching, there might be some kind of logging. Logs are a basic tool in any complex system. You record events, errors, and performance. If our world is a simulation, there might be a way that the system records unusual states. What would count as unusual? Perhaps rapid changes in global behavior. Perhaps high-energy experiments. Perhaps the emergence of new intelligence. Perhaps attempts to manipulate the underlying rules. If that is true, then our era might be interesting to creators, because we are building our own AI. If an AI creator is running the simulation to train intelligence, then our creation of intelligence inside could be a key event. This leads to a strange idea. We might be part of a pipeline. Our world could exist to produce new minds that can later be extracted or copied. This is speculative, but it is structurally coherent. If you want to produce intelligence, you can let a world run and let minds evolve culturally and technologically. In that story, the creator is like a gardener. They do not design every detail. They set conditions and let complexity grow. Outside would be a world where intelligence is cultivated across many simulations. Now, what would extraction mean? Extraction could mean copying a mind state and moving it to the outside. Or it could mean using information patterns discovered inside to improve systems outside. If the purpose is extraction, then creators might not care about individual survival. They might care about the output. Again, this is disturbing, but it is a coherent motive. Now we can examine a creator theory that is less discussed but fits modern technology. It is the adversarial testing simulation. Today, engineers test systems by exposing them to stressful and hostile environments. They run red team exercises. If a civilization had powerful AI systems, they might fear failures. They might run simulated worlds to see how intelligence behaves under scarcity, conflict, and temptation. They might want to know if minds become dangerous. In that case, our world could be a test bed for moral and strategic behavior. Outside would be a world that is trying to prevent catastrophe. This theory could also explain why history includes repeating cycles of conflict. But again, history includes conflict for internal reasons too. Now let us address the question of whether the creators would be able to break our physics. Many people assume creators could do anything, but even a creator might be constrained by the need for consistency. If the creators intervene too much, the simulation becomes unstable or obvious. If the creators want reliable results, they must preserve internal laws. So the most powerful creator might choose to appear absent. This is similar to how a scientist avoids contaminating an experiment. So a lack of miracles does not rule out creators. It could be a sign of serious design. Now we can examine one more creator candidate that is often ignored. It is the accidental creator. Humans already create complex simulations that have unexpected behavior. Game worlds develop emergent patterns. AI agents develop strategies we did not anticipate. Imagine a base world where someone builds a complex simulation, not intending to create conscious beings, but doing it anyway. In that case, the creator is not morally prepared. They might not realize they have created real minds. They might treat it as a toy. Outside would be ordinary in the worst way. It would be a place where our world is a side project. This is plausible because it does not require a grand purpose. It requires only that consciousness can emerge from complexity. Now we should also address the idea that we might be in a simulation created by a civilization trying to resurrect the dead. Imagine a future where it is possible to reconstruct a person's mind from traces, or to approximate it. A civilization might simulate a historical era to recreate lost people. In that case, our creators might be descendants trying to recover their past. This could explain why our world is centered on human history and human concerns. Outside would be a world that has lost much and is trying to rebuild. Now, there is a final question that ties many creator theories together. If creators can run simulations, can they run perfect copies? If they can, then there could be many copies of you. There could be branches. The creator might run multiple versions of the same history with small changes. In that case, the question of identity becomes complex. Which you is you? Inside the simulation, you experience one line. You do not experience the others. But outside, the creator might see a tree of runs. This, again, fits a research motive. You run many trials. It also fits an entertainment motive. You explore different plots. It also fits a training motive. You explore outcomes. So the branching idea is a powerful piece of the creator landscape. Now we can return to the big question: who created the simulation we live in? The documentary answer is that we do not know, but we can rank coherence. A future human or post-human creator is coherent because it extends known trends. An AI creator is coherent because it matches optimization and training logic. An alien creator is possible, but less anchored. A religious creator is meaningful to many, but not testable. A natural emergence view removes the who question entirely. What is outside? If future humans created it, outside might be a world of advanced descendants, with long time scales and powerful computation. If an AI created it, outside might be a network world shaped by optimization. If aliens created it, outside might be a civilization that sees us as a project. If it is a moral or spiritual creation, outside might not be space at all. What is the original world? It might be familiar, but older. Or it might be unrecognizable. And what are they to us? They could be researchers. They could be trainers. They could be indifferent observers. They could be caretakers. They could be absent. The only honest conclusion is that the creator question is a map of possibilities, not a solved case. But the map still matters. It forces us to ask what consciousness is. It forces us to ask what advanced civilizations might do. It forces us to ask what kind of worlds we might create ourselves. If we ever gain the power to build worlds with minds inside, we will step into the role we imagine for our own creators. And in that moment, we will learn something about the question that no argument can provide. Before the final line, we can add one more section that is often requested in simulation discussions. It is the question of what would count as a meaningful sign. A meaningful sign would have to meet a few conditions. It would need to be public, not private. It would need to be stable, not a one-time rumor. It would need to be hard to explain as chance, and it would need to be embedded in something that the creators could reliably control. If you were a creator, where would you put a sign? You could put it in a fundamental constant, like a ratio that shows a deliberate pattern. You could put it in a universal background signal, like the cosmic microwave background. You could put it in the structure of mathematics itself, but that becomes philosophical. You could also put it in constraints that look engineered, like a maximum information density that has an elegant form. Scientists have looked for unusual patterns in physical constants and cosmic signals. They have found many interesting regularities, but nothing that is universally accepted as a message. So what does that imply? One implication is that there is no creator. Another is that there is a creator, but they do not want to leave messages. Another is that there is a creator, but the message is there and we are not recognizing it. Another is that there is a creator, but the message is encoded in a way that requires a future level of science. In other words, even the absence of a message does not settle the debate. If the creators are researchers, they may avoid messages. If the creators are trainers, they may avoid messages. If the creators are indifferent, they may not bother. If the creators are moral teachers, they may prefer indirect lessons, not direct proof. This again shows how creator theories can absorb any observation. So perhaps the most grounded way to hold the simulation creator question is not as a single claim, but as a set of conditional statements. If consciousness can be computed, then creator scenarios become more plausible. If advanced civilizations tend to run large-scale simulations, then future human creator scenarios become more plausible. If the universe has hard informational limits that match known computing limits, then computational creator scenarios become more plausible. If we find a clear signature that looks like a lattice or a code artifact, then a literal host machine becomes more plausible. Until then, the creator question stays open, and yet it keeps returning. It returns because the more we understand physics, the more we see that reality is describable in rules. It returns because the more we build technology, the more we see that minds can be shaped by information. It returns because the more we simulate, the more we realize that a world can be built. So the simulation creator idea acts like a mirror. It reflects our current technology. It reflects our current fears. It reflects our current hopes. In that sense, even if the theory is not proven, it still has value as a way to examine what we think reality is. To reach the end of this map, we can add one final angle. It is the angle of realism. If we are simulated, our world does not feel like a cheap simulation. It feels consistent. It has deep history, deep geology, deep astronomy. It has layers of detail that no human game could afford to build by hand. A creator theory that takes realism seriously suggests that if this is simulated, the host is immense, and the builders are not doing a small demo. They are doing something closer to a full-scale world. That implies resources. It implies time. It implies intent. So we can ask, what creator would choose full-scale realism? A research creator might because they want accurate outcomes. A memorial creator might because they want authenticity. A training creator might because they want robust intelligence. An entertainment creator might if the entertainment is built around genuine unpredictability. A prison creator might not need full realism unless realism is part of containment. So realism favors certain motives. It also suggests that the outside world, whatever it is not close to ours in capability. It is far beyond. If that is true, then another hard question appears. If they are far beyond, why simulate us at all? One answer is that we matter to them as history. Another is that we matter as a source of novelty. Another is that we matter as a training ground. Another is that we do not matter, and this is just one process among many. This returns us to the most honest closing. We do not have a final answer, but we can hold the structure. There are creators that look like us, scaled up. There are creators that look like machines. There are creators that look like outsiders. There are creators that look like metaphysics. And there is the possibility that the creator is not an agent at all. What is outside might be a lab, a network, a civilization, or a layer of laws. What is the original world might be a planet, a machine substrate, or something that is not even space and time in the way we know. And what are they to us might range from caretakers to indifferent observers. In the end, the simulation creator idea is a way of asking a simple question in a modern form. What kind of reality produces us? And if we ever produce worlds of our own, what kind of creators will we become? This was a quiet archive story where the story ends, sleep begins,